Today, we're diving into something big. There's a tension brewing right at the heart of Ethereum, and it's not about the price of ETH or the next upgrade. No, this is about the people who built the whole thing, and a growing feeling that the dream they created might be starting to unravel.
I mean, really think about that question, what happens? Because that's exactly what we're looking at today. In a couple of incredibly candid public posts, two of Ethereum's most important figures have just pulled back the curtain on some deep-seated frustrations. So let's see what they have to say.
For this explainer, we're going to do something a little different. We're setting up a kind of virtual roundtable, pulling directly from the public writings of two key builders who have decided, you know what, it's time to speak up.
So on one side, you've got Peter Szilagyi. He's a core developer who's been in the trenches for almost a decade leading the Geth team. That's the software that literally powers most of the network. And on the other side, we have Sandeep Nailwal, the co-founder of Polygon, a project that brought Ethereum to millions of new users. So we've got two very different roles, but as we'll see, one very shared sense of disillusionment.
And this right here is the spark. Peter drops this long, really soul-searching post detailing all of his grievances. And for Sandeep, seeing a core developer lay it all out like that, well, that was the final push. It was the signal that he wasn't alone in feeling this way, and that it was time to get his own frustrations out in the open.
All right, let's get right to the heart of it. The first major theme in our roundtable is this really profound feeling of being unappreciated. We're talking both financially and professionally by the very institution they helped build from the ground up.
Peter kicks things off with this incredibly raw statement. He basically describes feeling trapped. He has two choices, both bad. Either stay quiet and just watch the protocol's values get chipped away, or speak up and damage his own reputation every single time he does. It's a classic catch-22.
And here's the number that really puts that feeling into perspective. Peter reveals that his total pay for his first 6 years was just over $500,000. Now remember, during that same time, Ethereum's market cap went from basically zero to $450 billion. He's arguing this isn't just about him, it's a systemic failure that creates some really dangerous incentives.
Which brings us to this key concept, protocol capture. See, Peter's argument is that by systematically underpaying its most principled core employees, the Ethereum Foundation basically forced them to look for money elsewhere, through things like advisorships and outside deals. And that opens the door for conflicts of interest and the very real risk that the protocol's future gets hijacked by a small, wealthy group.
And this feeling of being left out in the cold isn't just about money. Let's bring Sandeep into the conversation. He describes complete and total radio silence. Polygon, a project that has burned hundreds and hundreds of ETH in fees just to use the network, got zero support from the foundation. Nothing. Not even a simple retweet.
You see how this feeling of being an outsider, even when you're a crucial part of the ecosystem, can fester? Well, it leads us right to the next big point. This growing belief that Ethereum isn't a world of equal opportunity anymore, but that it's run by a small, disconnected group.
Peter really doesn't pull any punches here. He claims that this thing that was supposed to be a decentralized ecosystem has actually turned into a system where your success is pretty much decided by whether you know a small group of insiders, what he calls one happy friend circle of Vitalik.
So according to Peter, there's now a clear playbook for how to make it big in Ethereum, and it has almost nothing to do with building the best tech. It's all about getting the right 5 to 10 people in your corner. And that path, he argues, is the exact opposite of the decentralized, merit-based world Ethereum was supposed to be.
But hey, the criticism isn't just aimed at the foundation or some small elite group. Sandeep, in particular, points his frustration at the wider culture of the Ethereum community itself.
Well, it doesn't get much more blunt than that, does it? Sandeep's frustration is just boiling over here, and he asks a really sharp question. Why does it feel like every other week someone who has made massive contributions to Ethereum has to get online and publicly ask why they're even bothering to stick around?
And here's the real kicker, the irony he points out. He talks about how Polygon, a project that has done so much for Ethereum scalability, is often met with trolling and exclusion. It's like they're considered Ethereum when things go well, but they're definitely not part of the club when it comes to getting any kind of recognition or support.
And look, this isn't just about hurt feelings. This has a real, tangible financial cost. Sandeep points out what a lot of people think, that if Polygon just gave up on Ethereum and became its own independent Layer 1 blockchain, its valuation could be 2, maybe even 5 times higher. He's saying that his loyalty is potentially costing his project and its community billions of dollars.
And this is where we bring Peter back in. His point really echoes what Sandeep is saying, but from a totally different angle. He's mourning a cultural shift,
a move away from principles towards a purely transactional, it's just business mindset. And that's a mentality he says he just can't live with.
Okay, so after all of this, the feeling of being undervalued, the rise of a so-called ruling elite, a toxic community culture, where does that leave us? Well, it leads to the most dangerous place of all, a full-blown crisis of loyalty.
Peter's conclusion is just stark. It's so pessimistic. After almost a decade of building this thing, he believes the damage to the culture might be permanent. He flat out says he doesn't see a way back.
And bam! Right after that, Sandeep says the same thing. Coming from the leader of one of the ecosystem's biggest and most important projects, this is a bombshell. Not gonna lie, he says, I've started questioning my loyalty. This isn't just criticism anymore. This is a warning shot across the bow.
And really, that's the bottom line here. When the foundational, in-the-trenches developers and the biggest ecosystem pioneers start questioning why they're even here, that signals a massive crisis. It goes way deeper than code. It's a crisis of trust, a crisis of vision, and a crisis of identity for the entire network.
And that leaves us with this final massive question. You know, the whole promise of platforms like Ethereum was to create trustless systems. But what these builders have shown us is that these systems are still built and run by people. And if the trust between those people completely shatters, can the dream of a decentralized world actually survive?